I would like to start by saying that Bersih condemns any acts of violence by any quarter. I would also like to say that 250,000 people yesterday came in peace. They did not come there for violence. All purported acts of violence took place only after the tear gas was fired. Until then, sehingga itu, we had complete control over the situation. It is only when the tear gas was fired that everything went awry. Now, you've seen the pictures, you saw the people there. And incidentally, I gather journalists were not spared.
Yeah.
Ada ramai jurnalis yang kamera mereka dirampas dan sebagainya. Ya? Mengapa? Why were cameras? Mengapa kamera itu dirampas? Kita perlu menyoal ya perkara itu. Now, as I say, the 250,000 Malaysians who came there, they were singing in the streets. I was standing on the moving stage. I could see for a long distance on all three sides, everybody was peaceful. Everybody was peaceful. Nothing happened. They were just standing there listening. Some of them were sitting. Most of them were standing because there was not enough room to sit. And before me, I could see the ridiculous situation that all these people filled the streets of Kuala Lumpur and Dataran Merdeka was blocked off to them. Now, semalam Bersih telah pun diadakan di merata-rata tempat di Malaysia, ya. Di semua tempat itu, di mana authority telah pun membenarkan mereka mengadakan rally itu dalam lokasi yang dipilih oleh mereka. Hanya Kuala Lumpur, kami tidak dibenarkan untuk mengadakan rally di dalam lokasi yang kami memilih. Dan itulah, that to me is one of the problems. If we had been allowed into Dataran Merdeka for our duduk bantah, everything, and the police had worked with us, everything would have gone smoothly. Now, we have heard reports that there were agent provocateurs. Ada elemen ya. How do you say elemen what? Unsur-unsur provokasi. Unsur-unsur provokasi. Ya, who were responsible, yang bertanggungjawab untuk huru-hara yang telah berlaku. So these are the reports we are getting, that there were people who were organized to come in and create a problem. We are still waiting for further reports about that. But as far, and you can judge it from the evidence yourselves, from the video evidence, the photographic evidence, everybody was there peacefully. Now, after the tear gas was fired, and I will tell you about my own story later, but after the tear gas fired, that's when everything went wrong. And we have had reports of terrible acts of violence against protesters. We we have heard reports that people who were trying to get into the LRT stations to leave had problems because the trains were not stopping. All the LRT stations were closed.
Yeah.
We want to know who gave the order for that. Siapa yang mengarahkan supaya LRT ditutup so that people couldn't leave? We also want to know siapa yang memberi arahan untuk tear gas ditembak ke dalam LRT station. We understand Masjid Jamik was hit by tear gas. Siapa yang memberi arahan itu? siapa yang memberi arahan, because arrest took place only after about 6 o'clock. This was after most people had dispersed. Who gave the order for protesters? I think there were even incidents. You will hear the stories. As the days go by, you will all hear the truth come out. They were sitting having a drink and they were hauled in. Wong Chin Huat will tell his story in a minute. We have others here who will tell you their stories, and I will leave it to them. I won't repeat. Let them tell you their stories as to how they were handled yesterday. So, who were responsible for the acts of violence? We think a full inquiry has to be held. Nothing less will be acceptable. Now you see the pictures of the car that was overturned. There are reasons why that happened. Again, full investigation has to be undertaken. And I understand that the police who were driving that car were actually protected by the participants. They were protected. So please don't make assumptions. That's my appeal. We cannot make assumptions until the full facts come out. Having said that, we will not tolerate any acts of unnecessary or any acts of violence. But we want to know why it happened, how it happened, who perpetrated it. Why are there so many ordinary Malaysians who came there peacefully? Why have they suffered injuries? So we want to know the answers to those questions. So we want a full investigation. We want those people identified. Those people who created problems must be identified. Now, the other thing I would say is, ultimately, before I allow others to speak, ultimately, when the dust settles, and as I say, the truth will emerge, because there's too much photographic evidence, the truth will emerge. When the dust settles, the question for the government is, what is their response to 250,000 peaceful people coming out and asking for clean and fair elections? Apakah respons mereka? 250,000 di Kuala Lumpur sahaja. Di seluruh Malaysia, beribu-ribu. We don't know the full figures.
The world we haven't.
And in the world, we haven't got all the figures yet. Apakah reaksi government kepada perkara itu? Don't deflect just because of the issues of violence, although that is important. The issues of violence, because you know what? We want to know the truth. We actually have our suspicions about what took place. So we also want to know the truth. Please note, perhatikan what time each of these arrests happened and where they happened. Because, as you know, people, after the tear gas was fired before 3, I don't know exactly when, before 3, people were already dispersing. So everybody was leaving when these incidents took place. That's one. Number two, what were the instructions? Apakah arahan kepada polis? Because it looked to me as if the arahan was to punish. Yeah? So I want to know, and this is easy for them to find out, for the ministry to establish, what instructions were given to the police. Now, number 3, talking about tear gas. Tear gas was shot into, as you know, was shot out of Dataran. Many shells of tear gas. It was unnecessary. You only need, if at all, one to disperse. But not just that. They shot tear gas everywhere else. Everywhere else. And they also dropped tear gas from the helicopter, Ivy?
We are not sure whether it was, we were all resting on the side of Level Ampang, having a drink, and suddenly from the top helicopter, it dropped. We're not sure whether it was the helicopter or actually someone on the building.
Actually,
but from a height.
Actually, we think, because I was there also, I think there were gliders before that.
Oh yes, the gliders,
There were
the gliders.
And these gliders were either in one of the buildings, either HSP, and that's where there was also coming from.
There's already a plan for all of
Yes.
us. We were actually resting and trying to catch our breath and recover from the gas. A lot of them were just resting, just waiting to see how
What
we
were
can
the
get out of
gliders
there.
doing?
What were the gliders doing on that stage? There's a gliders, you know.
Yes.
Were they part of the game to throw away the tear gas?
So we want to know what the instructions were. I think that is really important to establish. We want Suhakam to carry out the independent inquiry, yeah?
Okay.
Not police inquiry. We want Suhakam to please carry out a full inquiry into what took place. And finally, I just want to say, if I didn't say it earlier, that we want to actually thank the unit Amal and all the others who held the crowd extremely well until that point when tear gas was fired. I think someone reported that we said we lost control. We never lost control. We never lost control because I was on the stage. I could see people there. We were actually turning to go into Jalan Tunku Abdul Rahman to move away and to disperse the crowd. So we were doing it in stages, trying to disperse the crowd. That was where we were headed. We were going to turn the car to the right, away from Dataran. That's what we were trying to do, and everything was under control.
This time around, we are more prepared compared to Bersih 2.0. We have deployed 7 medical teams at various locations. As you know, that we have 7 different locations before we march to Dataran Merdeka. And we had one central, basically backup team by HKL, stationed at Dataran Merdeka itself, complete with beds and everything. And 8 ambulances on standby on that day. And the thing was that I won't go into detail on how many injuries we had on each different locations, but what I'm trying to say is that 117 of demonstrators were hospitalized, mainly for minor injuries, for dehydration, hematoma, laceration, no fractures, and also but however, 7 of them were considered to be more critically injured, and basically by today, all of them were discharged. And the most important thing is that there's no death this time around. Okay, and we could not verify about the story just now about one policeman who was.
Can't find him.
No, it's not true.
It was probably just a hearsay.
One death
But
unrelated.
one death was unrelated to Bersih. Okay, it happened before it started, and that was unrelated. And people cannot say and pinpoint that it was death because of Bersih people. It happened somewhere near Jalan Petaling. All right, Jalan Sultan. And but there's one case, I received a call from one of my doctors who said that her friend got shot with this canister
tear gas.
right onto the face and got hematoma. And I thought that we raised this issue up during Bersih 2.0, that policemen should not fire directly to protesters. But it happened again. Obviously that the police probably they did not attack Tung Ching Hospital or any of the hospitals like before. I was one of the 11 doctors who made that press statement, and nothing came out of it, right? They said they wanted to hold inquiry. Policemen came to take our statement, but nothing happened after that. So now, what we're saying is that the police did not really exercise restraint, and they were very excessive in their action against demonstrators, and we are sorry for what had happened to some of the demonstrators. But as has been said by Ambiga and the rest, we were basically well in control of the situation.
Opposition leader yang bucak less than 2 minutes, and then there's just crash.
Okay,
So
I was on that truck, all right? So let me tell you what I saw.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what was happening on the ground, all right, because I was up. But Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim gave a speech as well. I closed it, and then the truck started moving. And then between Datuk Sri and me, what we were trying to do is to tell the crowd slowly to disperse.
the one is in Jalan Tun Perak, right?
Tun Perak.
Tun Perak.
And we
Talking
were
about-
taking, where we were going to turn into That's what we were planning to
dalam
do,
cukup
but we
ramai.
never got there. Before any of that could take place, someone charged at the barrier. Someone breached the barrier. All right. So that's what caused the tear gas. All right.
Then the
So
balance.
that part of it
Clear.
had nothing to do with us. That was someone that should be investigated. We want to know who said. No, I saw one running, but I don't know how many else. Okay? At that point, I got off the truck actually, and so we want to know. We want to know as well, of course, because that goes entirely against what Bersih had announced. We were not going to breach. We were not going to break the barriers. Okay, so that's what happened there. Then immediately the tear gas was fired. Okay, so we want to see how many rushed. Was it even necessary to fire tear gas? If it was necessary, did so much tear gas have to be fired into? If you look at the crowd, it was a packed crowd. You fire tear gas into a crowd like that, you're bound to get people crushed, and you're bound to cause problems. But we need to see what situation the police had to handle at that stage. So that's something we want to see. We want to be fair to everybody. What we're saying is, over and above that, after that, was all that violence and excessive use of tear gas necessary? That's what we are asking.
Following that, because there was alleged that the opposition leader was the few that actually ordered to...
Dato Sri Anwar did not order that. That is not true, okay? Because I was right next to him, and we were trying to get the truck to move away from Dataran, because we wanted to go down Batu Road, speak to the crowd and tell them to disperse. That's what the plan was.
But ada leaders yang berucap sebelum tu yang kata kita kena memerdekakan negara, kita kena masuk.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Let there be a full inquiry. I don't know about that.
Yes, you.
Just a follow-up to this question, because there were some who said that YB Azmin Ali was the one who was provoking the crowd.
We don't know about that, because let there be a full inquiry. That's why I say let there be. I don't want to comment on that until I know the facts, because you look at the overturned car, picture of that, what was the impression? But when we dug deeper, we found out there was a reason for it and what happened. So please, everybody, wait for the investigations, because that's why we're saying Suhakam should investigate.
Okay, ada apa persoalan lagi?
It's okay, let them
So there were also some who said that the opposition basically hijacked the whole thing. What did you say to that?
How? Did you see the people? Did you see the people? No doubt. I didn't know Dato Sri was going to speak, but he came up, so did YB Lim Kit Siang. They are members of parliament, and many of their supporters wanted to hear them. So they came up and they spoke to them. And actually, Dato Sri Anwar and of course YB Lim Kit Siang was there as well. We were trying to work out a way to disperse the crowd and to move along. People want to hear their leader. There are groups who want to hear Dato Sri speak and Kit Siang, because somebody was called. They were calling his name, saying, "We want to hear you speak."
MalaysiaKini.com.
For the Malaysia Kini, Malaysia Kini.